Hi, my name is Tony Ridley. I spent over 20 years in the security industry, with the past 10 years specialising in travel safety and security for businesses and holiday travellers. I've also planned, managed and directed numerous international evacuations. I want to share with you today a secret about the Egypt evacuations. What can I say anything more than unnecessary by and large? Despite the widespread acceptance that due to the evolving circumstances and situation in Egypt that evacuations were the order of the day, evacuations are largely unnecessary and continue to add to the disturbing trend of governments evacuating citizens. Very, very rarely do citizens need to be evacuated. Yes, there were demonstrations, there have been pockets of violence, there's been military and police intervention and government condemnation, but this does not warrant widespread evacuations for any groups. Buildings are still standing, the entire city is not without power, water is still running, bodies are not piling up in the street, and there's no mass violence on a large scale targeting anyone and everyone. Consider the reasons for evacuations and the true motivations of evacuees and compare them with other recent calamities. Imagine you're sitting quietly in a public area with multiple people start running past screaming and wailing. Even though you see no reason or danger for the behaviour, you're unlikely to sit there and take your chances. Most likely you're going to join the melee. Sympathetic evacuations occur all the time. A single group, largely uniformed, scared, low tolerance, spurred on by other agitators, will make a dash for the nearest port or means of escape. Their actions are observed, broadcast or simply spread through other communities such as travellers and expatriates. Not long after this, the group's joined by another group and another and another and yet another. Soon you have everyone calling for evacuations even though they don't really know the reason for which predicated the first screaming and running. Any and all negative events that occur in the course of the scramble, such as being stopped at police checkpoints, only reinforces and validates the need for evacuation in everyone's mind. In recent weeks we've seen terrorist attacks at major international airports in Russia. Was there a large-scale international evacuation required? No. A series of natural disasters has seen Australia suffer from some of the worst flooding, storms and even fires in a short period. Did any developed nation fly in with government-chartered aircraft or military planes to evacuate their citizens? No. India and the Philippines have both suffered severe snowstorms and fires that gutted hundreds of homes, respectively. Again, any mass evacuations? No. The consistency in offering for evacuations is getting even more confusing as governments seek to atone for past mistakes and chase votes with popular support operations. By and large, governments have been motivated by past failures and almost complete risk avoidance for political reasons. I've already commented on previous articles of the value of government travel advisories and warnings, which continue to display such risk avoidance and lack of relevance to the majority of travellers. Travellers, on the other hand, have been motivated largely by the offering of free return international flights. There have been legitimate threats to individuals and small groups, but far less than the thousands that have already been evacuated so far, many of whom will be back to Egypt in the not too distant future. Everyone loves a good adventure story to share from a recent holiday, but it doesn't mean the adventure was truly necessary or avoidable. The vision and stories coming from Egypt has been akin to looking through a keyhole. Only a small geographical area has been affected. The entire country has not collapsed. Infrastructure remains intact and Egyptians are not seeking vengeance against any and all foreigners. The interpretation and processing of visuals and reports on Egypt have been significantly over-dramatised. Remember, the events that led to the evacuations of thousands from Egypt have created a situation that everyone thinks that this is the norm. Similar templates will now be applied to an increasing amount of situations in the coming months and years. It doesn't mean that they're necessary. Business travellers and travel managers need to be aware. Expectations have been set. Evacuation demands are on the increase and they're simply a phone call away. Many false positives will be the result, but regrettably there are still situations that result in failure to respond when there is a very real, legitimate and requirement for intervention and evacuation, particularly in the sake of life safety and security. For citizens abroad, their current application, their monitoring, their surveillance and their support mechanisms should remain unchanged. But evacuations is not the first option, it's not the only option, and it should certainly be scrutinised and examined before people start deploying aircraft or evacuating people out of affected areas to non-affected areas across international borders and boundaries. Thank you.